I'll call this regular council meeting in the Village of Gramenan to order at 7:30 p.m. And for prayer, we have Pastor Wade Ruppert.
Of Commons each day when our members of Parliament are sitting. Almighty God, we give thanks for the blessings which have been bestowed on Canada and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace. We pray for our sovereign, Queen Elizabeth, the Governor General, and the Lieutenant Governor. Guide those around this table in their deliberations as members of council, and grant them wisdom and understanding to preserve and enhance the blessings of this country for the benefit of all, and to make wise decisions. Amen.
Thank you. I think it's appropriate that Wade was here because I just wanted to say thank you as he's running out the door for all his work in organizing the Lieutenant Governor's visit this weekend. I know those of us who were at the reception really had a good time. She's very pleasant and easy to interact with. I had the opportunity to go to the school while she toured there, and I think that the kids really appreciated meeting her. I have to say they loved the school, and we got rave reviews here on Gramenan with how fortunate we are to have the school and the programs that we do, which I think is always a nice reminder to hear that from the outside world. So I know she stopped in to see other people around the table, so once again, thank you for pushing us and organizing the visit. I think it was a really nice touch for Jubilee weekend. Thank you. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is a bit of good news. As many people know, there is a group on the island who's been working on sponsoring a Ukrainian family to come to the island, and they are arriving, I believe, tomorrow evening. So it's been a lot of weeks of work, and so they should be here hopefully tomorrow. So I'm trusting Gramenan will give them our warmest welcome, as we are known to do. Another thank you to Coast Guard. They put some work in down at Southern Head, and the road going in there in the parking lot has been filled in with the potholes. I've seen a picture, I've not been down, but it looks much, much better than what it did before, so I think it's really great to have that improvement done coming into the summer season. And finally, it wouldn't be June without graduation, so a big congratulations to the class of 2020. They certainly haven't had the easiest high school career. 2022, I'm still back 2 years ago. They haven't had the easiest high school career, so I think it says a lot that they've made it through, and wish them a happy and safe graduation. So with that, item number 4 is disclosure of conflict of interest. Hearing none, I'm going to move on to number 5, adoption of the minutes. We have the regular council meeting minutes of May 2nd and the special meeting minutes of May 18th.
I'd make a motion that we adopt the minutes for the regular council meeting, May 2nd, and the special meeting, May 18th.
You heard the motion from Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Greenlaw. Any question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Additions to the agenda. I have one under closed session legal for a property matter. Is there anything else?
I have 2 items for council to consider. One is an application for donation from Island Fest for $200. I'd like to add that to the agenda.
You said you had 2?
I have 2.
Okay.
The second one is alternate banking and investment review by our staff.
Would you like to make a motion to add all 3 of those to the agenda?
I make that motion.
You heard the motion, seconded by Councillor Brown. Question? All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion carried. So I'm going to suggest the donation for Island Fest and the alternate banking, those will go under new business at 14.5 and 14.6. And the property legal would be in closed session, so that will be 18.1. Okay. We don't have an RCMP report. I understand that Corporal Stewart is away for a court matter out west, so I think he's gone for a week or so. So we'll move on to number 9, which is old business. 9.1, Foster Fisheries.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So after the special meeting, we had Mr. Foster in to represent himself with an appeal for the rezoning. At the end of the meeting, I guess there was some misunderstanding between our development officer and Mr. Foster. So after clearing up what was said, I reached out to the development officer to see. Mr. Foster was under the impression that the development officer said that we would work with him is the reason why that he continued to operate after the 30-day stop work order was issued. After talking to the development officer, that did not happen. The conversation where it was we would work with you came when they issued the 30 days. Instead of giving a cease and desist immediately, they gave him the benefit of the doubt and said we would work with him just in case there was any contracts or anything that he may have signed to give him time to fulfill those contracts before the cease and desist was enacted. So that's it.
So at this point, we have an appeal from Mr. Foster of the decision of the PAC. So we had tabled that, so I guess we're looking for a decision on whether we accept that appeal or not.
Yeah, and to accept the appeal means basically that at this point, accepting it means that we're accepting the application for staff to start the process of the rezoning. That still doesn't guarantee anything. It's just whether or not to accept it.
I thought he said that the one that we're talking about, he didn't want to do anything else in it.
Well, they're still working.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was my understanding was he was concerned about developing the property behind that as industrial, and if he could travel through this piece of property without this being upgraded to industrial as well, and using the material that he had amassed there to make the road to the back piece of property. Did we find any clarification on that?
According to the development officer, he can travel across the PID that was issued, the stop work order, but he cannot use the material that's stockpiled. And the application for the other 2 PIDs that he's requesting to rezone will be on PAC's agenda for the June's meeting. So it's the second Wednesday, so it would be next Wednesday.
Councillor Russell, you look like you're leaning forward.
I guess I'm confused. I have a piece of property that's zoned a certain zone, and I, on my own, just go in, maybe through lack of knowledge of what I can do on my piece of property that's zoned a certain zone, and I start something that is not within that zoning. So I proceed along, I work along, and then someone complains or brings it to this table's attention or to the development, someone's attention. And through the process, it takes quite a while. I get a piece of paper that says cease and desist. But as long as I appeal, I can keep working. So by the time we get to many, many weeks in, I've already done everything I want to do. I've ruined that piece of property, or it's no longer what is zoned. There's something wrong with the system. It just doesn't work. And I don't know what to do. Where I could do that or anyone else can do that, I just don't understand that.
Counselor Boyd?
I think that was part of the confusion, where Mr. Foster seemed to think that while the appeal process was happening, he could continue to work, but as CAO Rayner confirmed with our development officer Manzer, that was not the situation at all. It was, you have 30 days to finish up whatever you got, and then you're done. And then you can, that's when he came to appeal. So there's a lot of misinformation and half-truths kind of strewn around there. So really, when the cease and desist order 30 days was up, that should have been it until either we reversed PIC's decision or whatever we went on with from there.
Counselor Turner?
Based on the consideration and time that the PAC put into this, and I'm certainly willing to believe that they did, I would make a motion that we support their decision.
You heard the motion from Counselor Turner. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Boyd. Question? All those in question?
All this comes, I know there's been talk about other PIDs and CAO Rayner just mentioned it as well, but that's a whole separate issue currently. This is just for, I don't have the number right in front of me, I'm sure somebody does, but it's just for that one property that they're working on currently.
Correct. Any other question? Counselor Russell?
If we support the motion, what happens next?
I'm not an expert, but my understanding at that point is that his appeal to rezone is that he can't rezone that piece of property.
He does have the right to go one more step for the New Brunswick Appeals Board.
Any other questions? Counselor Boyd?
So is there a plan in place if hypothetically we vote to uphold the PAC's decision and reject Mr. Foster's appeal? Is there a plan in place for tomorrow saying that, like, that's it, you're done? And if their work continues, like, where do we go from there?
The only thing we would have would be to reach out to legal to find out what the next step would be. And let's say hypothetically, it's upheld tonight, they work tomorrow. We just get a hold of the lawyer to lay it in court that they violated the bylaw. And once that's laid in court, we all know how fast that process works. The judge might say, okay, you've got a date of September 24th for the hearing, and between then and now and then.
Counselor Green?
I believe he would have to live by our decision until he gets a judge, or there used to be a provincial planning appeal board that they could go to him, I was still there, but until he can get someone to say that decision should be frozen pending an outcome. But I think if we vote in affirmative with this motion, Manzer should have all the tools in his back pocket to shut him down or shut that operation down. I shouldn't say shut him down, that wasn't the intent, but to shut that operation down for pending a decision being made by a higher body.
And, go ahead.
I think this brings up the age-old question that's been tossed around a few times about a bylaw enforcement officer. That's something that, moving forward, we may need to look at down the road, so.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. 9.2, Action Ministries Thrifties Expansion, CAO Rayner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So at the May meeting, there's been the request to expand Thrifties. And it was tossed back and forth with some options on trying to make this project as feasible as possible. And one of those options was the possibility of only putting cedar shingles on kind of the north and the south facing walls and the east wall, put something more economical. So after the meeting, the group wanted me to go back to Action Ministries or Thrifties, whoever it is, to figure out what we have for options. So they reached out to the builder, and basically they're looking at an additional $2,000 to make the third wall, the largest wall, cedar shingles as well. So currently the quote is $35,900, so that to do that whole job in cedar shingles would bring that up to $37,900. That way there, the addition will look exactly like the rest of the building.
Councillor Russell?
I make a motion that council pay the incremental cost of $2,000 to provide cedar shingles on the east wall.
You heard the motion from Councillor Russell. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Brown. Question? Councillor Boyd?
So this is shingling the new piece as well as the old? Or just the three sides of the new piece?
That's to shingle 3 sides of the new piece.
Yeah.
The fourth wall will be the adjoining wall between the existing building and the new piece.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Turner?
Is that the only option? Like, are they asking us to pay the difference?
They never asked us to pay it. I believe Councillor Russell is basically saying, you know, if this is what we want for all 3 sides to look the same, then we should help contribute.
Any other questions?
We have a plan where we're getting that money from? We do? Yeah, hey,
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. 9.3 is Pride Month Letter of Request, and that's me. We were approached late April, early May, to recognize, for the Village of Grand Manan to recognize Pride Month. Know that not everybody is comfortable with this topic, and there's a lot of feelings on it on both sides. But we want to be fair, and we fully realize that there's a lot of work to be done, and we want to start working together. And we welcome any input that leads to productive conversations. And so we'd like to suggest that we start by acknowledging Pride Month on our sign out front for the remainder of the month. And I would open that up for discussion. I know there's been a lot of conversations around this since the request has come in, and I think it's a conversation that we have to have, so. Questions, comments?
you have had conversations with
Had conversations with the person who put the request in. I've had conversations with other people in the community besides that. I know that other counselors around the table have as well. And it was felt by the majority of people that this would be a good first step. Councillor Russell?
Yes, I guess the question I have is, how do we as council decide what goes on the billboard and what doesn't?
Councillor Toll?
I was involved in some of the talk with this decision, and
this is, it's not easy to make these decisions or decide how to do things, but I think maybe our first steps are just acknowledging that this is Pride Month and we do support whoever wishes to be supported, and that maybe we can work towards getting a group eventually that can talk about what they would like, what their feelings are, how we can all work together. We have some information that we were emailed from, I can't remember what group it came from, that has got lots of information in it that we can start with. And we have had mixed conversations. Some people are very passionate, some people are more low-keyed. So we thought this would be a nice middle ground to meet and just have our sign acknowledge that we support it and put it on our Facebook page. And then we can kind of work from there to decide what we want to do in the future, working together as a group, as a community.
And I think maybe if I can, Councillor Russell, to your question about how we decide what goes on the sign, I think that's something that, you know, as a council, if we want to develop a policy or something like that around, I think that's certainly within our parameters. At this point, we've had a request come to us, and this isn't exactly what the request was, but it was felt to be some sort of middle ground that would maybe be a bit more comfortable for some people and would be an acknowledgement of what the request was. So, I guess I'm looking for a motion to proceed with this, if that's the will of the group. If it's not, then that's fine too.
I would make a motion to proceed with this.
Heard the motion by Councillor Toll,
I would second that.
seconded by Councillor Greenlaw. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. 9.4 is Dark Harbor quotes to repair the parking area. Councillor Geordie Layton to discuss.
This quote from the two contractors is there's a big slab, a big mud hole in the back of the parking lot, and we're just gonna clean that off, level it off with fresh gravel. We're gonna fill the culverts with gravel and make it ready so they can lay the cement right on top of that. So that's what that quote is for. And that said, I apologize, I should have maybe asked the Properties Committee to maybe take the lead on this, but I've got a little passion for Dark Harbor, and here I am wasting everybody's time. So I'm looking for a motion that we proceed with, I guess we pick the lowest bidder, whichever bidder, like, I don't know how we want to go about this.
I just have a question about, is it, Griffin and Sons is including concrete, gravel, and the work. The other two just seem to be for gravel.
Yes.
So that's why the price is so different. So it's not necessarily cheapest.
Well, this
It's-
is concrete. for
Yeah.
Griffin.
Okay, so there's two jobs being done.
Two jobs.
Oh, okay,
Preparation, then
okay.
he'll come in
Okay,
and lay
sorry.
the concrete on top.
Okay.
Sorry.
Count,
Do we know if either or both of these contractors have their insurances and everything we require to do work on, for the village?
We don't.
I don't see the need for a small little job like this to go with our local contractor and do the best price, but if we're gonna get into insurances and all this stuff, well, we're gonna pay a lot more money. I don't know. It's-
If we're gonna ask our snow removal people who drive, plow a little snow around our buildings to carry certain insurance to use their equipment on our property,
we'll
I
have-
think it's only fair that that all people working on our properties have to be so, protected.
So are you taking offense to me stepping on your toes here in your committee? No, well, okay, we'll push it off. I'd like to have this all done for our nice concert that we're gonna have out there, but obviously that's not gonna happen. Maybe if, I don't know, it's Philman's point of view that we should follow that, but
Okay, I have another question from Councillor Russell, and then we'll double back to see if you're going to make a motion to proceed with this after we hear from Councillor Russell.
I thought we normally dealt with contracts in closed session.
Normally,
well,
we-
no, I named one because it's the only game in town, but I haven't named the other contractors. We're just going with the lower price, I believe.
so we
We
could,
could.
we could move this into closed session and continue the conversation there, if that's,
That's fine
I
with me.
think so.
would you like
Yes,
to,
we'll still,
would
it's
someone
still
like
on
to
the
make
ag-
that motion that we would move this to closed session?
I make the motion, we move this to closed
You
session.
heard the motion by Councillor Russell. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second
Seconded
that.
by Councillor Layton. Any
Thank you.
questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. That will be 18-2. We'll move it to there. Okay. 9-5 is the Regional Service Commission update. CAO Chris Rayner to update.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As everyone knows, the local government reform's in full swing. They still have an end date or a date to roll this thing out on January 1. I was asked to join a group to help facilitate the transition for RSC 10. We had our first meeting Thursday, May 26, at the Service Commission at Hemlock Knoll. We had a lot of good representation around the table, mostly CAOs from our region. Blacks Harbor, St. Andrews, St. Stephen, St. George, the Service Commission representative was there. The facilitator for the province chaired the meeting. And just some of the stuff that went over on our agenda is economic development, how that's gonna work, tourism, community development, regional transportation, recreation, public safety. And at the end of the day, the facilitator didn't really have any answers to the questions. There was a lot of good questions, and so they are supposed to come back. Apparently there's a meeting towards the end of this week, first and next, with all of the chairs of the facilitator groups are getting together in Moncton, where they've assured that there'll be answers to all these questions, and then moving forward, the group will get back together to review all of these items to hopefully get some clarity. But there was certainly not a lot of answers from the province for the questions that was being pushed from around the table, which is a little unsettling considering how the fact that they want this all rolled out by January 1. So January 1 is coming and they don't know the answer to the questions. So anyone has any questions, I can certainly try to answer them, but other than that, I'm gonna be like the province and say I don't really have any answers to those questions.
Councillor Boyd would like to hear you say that.
No, I just, I guess this is more of a comment than a question. But at the last Union of Municipalities Board meeting in Dieppe, it was a lot of the same thing. And of course, the union, as you know, has sent a letter to the province to say, can we please slow down? This seems like lofty goals to reach. And Mr. Alain is very much, what was this word? I said, the toothpaste is out and you can't put it back in the tube, or something like that. So this isn't just Region 10 specific. It's province wide, and everyone's having a hard time getting the right answers, or like just as simple as like we have to like now we're pretty well untouched here, so we're lucky that way. But a lot of places that are like Blacks Harbor, St. George is now Eastern Charlotte, so just a simple question of like who's going to pay for the new signage that, because we're going to take the Black's Harbor signs down, the St. George signs down, and the new letterhead, like, where does that money all come from? Well, there's money for it. Well, where's it coming from? Well, there's money for it. So it's, anyways, it's all over the province. I think they really are pushing too hard, and there's not enough information out there yet. So we are working at the union level to try to slow things down, but they seem pretty hell-bent to push it through for January 1. So buckle up, I guess.
Anyone else? I will say before we leave that, I did agree to join the transition team that's going to start the hiring process for the executive director for RSC 10, and we have our first meeting on Wednesday. So I'm guessing I'm not going to be able to provide a lot of updates since it's a hiring process, but just so you know that I am going to sit at the table. 9.6 is GMCS Scholarship, CAO Chris Rayner to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the bursary committee met last week. We reviewed all of the applicants for college as well as university. We had a lot. It's probably one of the biggest numbers we've had for a long time, which was great to see. But again, it's hard to pick. But I think at the end of the day, the bursary committee done a great job coming up with some recommendations. So I think at this point, I would look for a motion to accept the bursary committee's recommendations for the 2022 scholarships.
Would anybody like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Heard the motion by Councillor Greenlaw. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councillor Brown. Question? Councillor Russell?
Can you just give us an idea of what the scholarships are? Do you have, like, is there 4 or 5? I don't even know what we give out, or...
There's 2 scholarships a year.
Anyone else? And we're obviously not naming names, so it will be a surprise at graduation, so. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Next is the 10-minute open session. And since I don't see Arlene and Bill storming the podium, we'll move along to new business, which is 14.1, mileage, expense form, CAO Rayner to address.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You sound like a broken record. I'm not sure how I get on this many times, but. So I guess this is a fairly simple one. As you all know, the price of gas has skyrocketed in the last few months. We put a poll out on AAMB or UMNB, whatever the platform, AAMB, and just everyone's looking at doing the same thing. Everyone's kind of wondering. A lot of municipalities, including ourselves, currently have a mileage rate for for anyone traveling for village business, set at a rate of 41 cents per kilometer. We heard back from a lot of municipalities, and the majority of them is at the 51-cent mark as of now. So I'm just looking to start the conversation about whether or not this group feels that we should put our mileage rate up from 41, what it is currently, up to match where other municipalities are going.
Any questions, comments? Councillor Layton?
Who, just our employees that were for mileage, like who collects mileage? Who charges us mileage? Our employees
And councillor.
and council?
Yep, like if you went away for a transportation committee in Fredericton,
Yep.
you get mileage for the distance traveled as well as breakfast, lunch, dinner. There's a per meal allowance there as well.
Thanks.
Councillor Russell?
Yeah, I think Revenue Canada, like if you travel for medical away, you can get a flat rate, and I think it's 51 cents. And that's been in place 2 years ago. That's even before the price of gas went up. So I don't think 51 cents for the, you know, certainly is not unreasonable. But I just looked, I can buy the pumps tonight, I think it said 212 plus.
Counselor Green?
Yeah, I just traveled to Sackville and back, and basically it cost me $24 for every 60 kilometers, or every 60 miles. Yeah, it's not 51 cents. It sounds to me like a fair number.
So would someone like to make a motion, or? Yes?
It's 51 cents now, but gas, and that number's likely a few weeks old, right? Quite a lot's happened in the last few weeks with gas. We likely should have something that if it gets above a certain limit, that this escalates, this goes up. I mean, we've got to be reasonable. We expect our employees and our council to travel and do council business. It shouldn't have to come out of their pocket. So I don't know how to do that, but, I mean, we may be back here in another month and looking for 60 cents. You know, I don't know. I think we've got to be prepared to be fair with people that are doing village business.
Counselor Boyd?
The CRA rate is currently 59 cents, I believe.
59?
Yeah.
Anyone else? Counselor Russell again.
Could you have gone to Sackville and back for 51 cents a kilometer?
Gas, it was 24 cents a kilometer for
Yeah.
gas.
Yeah.
But that's not the only expense.
No, no.
I drove driving a half full.
Yeah, there's-
done to about
yeah.
10 cents.
There's depreciation and all the other things of using a vehicle too.
Yes,
Okay.
that's only part of this impression. Sorry, get Chris about it.
Counselor Boyd?
Yes, so with the union, when we're doing business there with the union municipalities, we do the CRA rate minus 5 cents. So like when I was in Dieppe a couple weekends ago, it was 54 cents. So that's just how the union does it. Everyone does it a little bit different, but
Why doesn't Graham and Ann do that? There's our route. We just follow the CRA rate minus 5.
Anyone else, or would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to have our mileage expenses at the CRA rate minus 5 cents.
Heard the motion by Counselor Boyd. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Russell. Question. Counselor Turner?
I presume that means we would follow that along, like if theirs dropped, ours would drop to whatever, minus 5, so we just keep with that flow so that we don't have to keep reviewing. Okay.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. 14.2 is Victoria Park surveillance. Deputy Mayor Roger Fitzsimmons to discuss.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Once again, we've been hit with a little vandalism up at Victoria Park. This time it was our tennis courts, and you have pictures in front of you showing what was done with the surface. It was spread all over the tennis courts, and anyway, you can see there's quite a bit of the surface that's been picked, and fair amount of damage there. There was some writing scratched out on the court, off to the side, not right on the court, but anyway, we've spent a fair amount of money up there in the last few years. How much, Chris, CAO, how much?
$300,000.
$300,000 worth of equipment, and between the basketball court and the pickleball court and the tennis court here. So it's a lot of money to spend for, and this isn't the first. We've had dirt bikes on the ball field. We've had the washrooms that have been plugged, and anyway, it's just been one thing after another, it seems. There's different ideas, but I mean, we could go and put a fence up put a fence all around it, and that would be really expensive. So we're wondering if maybe if we upgrade the cameras, get some new cameras, upgrade them, and see what we can do there. I was up there with Mike Ingalls, and was having a look around. He made some suggestions of what we could do, and so if we get a new 4-channel recorder and got some cameras to go with it, we could have the tennis courts and basketball and pickleball courts all covered, and then up around the pool we could have covered, and the ball diamond. Each camera is $500 except for the one that would be overlooking the ball diamond. That'd be a little more expensive because it has long range, the zoom and everything on it. That's $800. And then a 4-channel recorder would be $550. So you're looking at somewhere around $2,850 for 3 cameras, a new recorder, and everything installed, all the wiring and all that sort of stuff. So we're hoping to find the money somewhere to get this done up as soon as possible.
Yeah, I was supposed to task myself with coming up with some means to fund that, but between, in our recreation budget, a little bit from our fencing budget, a little bit from our playground, a little bit from our ball field, between the 3, maybe even a little bit from the the budget that we have for the community center for looking after the cameras here, that we can come up with that amount of money.
Councillor Russell?
CO Chris, do you have an idea what the total assets value is of Victoria Park? That's everything, not just what we did recently, but everything?
I don't really, Councillor Russell. I don't sure what the value of the ball field would be. Like I said, we just invested over 300 in the new basketball, pickleball, in resurfacing the tennis court. The last 3 years, we've dumped $15,000 each year into new playground equipment to go with the already equipment that was there. So, you're getting in excess of $500,000 for sure with the cost of the ball field. The pool depreciates that a little bit.
Councillor Turner?
I would like to just suggest that we have a very clear sign at the entry too that says it's under surveillance and the consequences of anyone causing damage, just so that the cameras don't serve the purposes of us just being able to do something after the fact, and maybe we can prevent it as well.
That's a good idea.
Councillor Green, I saw you leaning forward. And then I see Councillor Layton after that.
Do we have, obviously we've got to fix what's been done. Is that a big number, or do we have anything on that yet?
The company that done the resurfacing a few years ago left us with a few supplies. I'm hoping we'll have enough there, the paint, the sealer and the paint stuff, that we can patch those up.
Councillor Layton, he's changed his mind. Okay, anyone else? So I guess we're looking for a motion to proceed with installing the cameras at Victoria Park.
I'd make that a motion.
You heard the motion by Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons,
I will second that.
seconded by Councillor Toll. Question? Councillor Boyd?
I'm sure this is probably a stupid question, but I'm assuming the stuff that you talked with Mike about, it's all the motion sense, night vision, all that stuff, which is pretty well common of what he installs around the island.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Councillor Layton?
Has there been more than one quote? Is that the only quote you got?
He was the only one I was talking to. Is there somebody else that puts up cameras and stuff?
I don't know if there is on island or not.
Right.
but we can certainly find a second person.
Be good.
Counselor Boyd?
Mike is Alpha Security now, correct? Like that's
Yes.
his, yeah, okay,
Yes.
yeah.
So we have a motion on the table. Any other question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. 14.3 is the financial statement approval. CAO Chris Rayner to address.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is basically just some housekeeping. Every year, once the accountants get the financial statements done, they just need approval from the group in order to proceed. Once they get that approval, like last year, Beers and Yields would be more than willing to come down to answer any questions. So tonight we just need a motion to accept the financial statements as I believe, Alyssa, they all went out there. Yeah.
Any questions? Counselor Russell?
Yeah, just a question on procedure. I actually went through these statements, and I've got 6 or 7 questions. So this is stamped draft. So if we approve this tonight, does it go from draft to final?
Yes.
And even before, I mean, these questions are, some of them are because I don't understand all accounting lingo, I guess. But, so they will come back to us, or
They'll be approved.
Beers Neal will bring the approved one back and answer any questions.
Answer any questions.
But yeah, okay, I just wanted to know, get a feel for the procedure, because,
can't be changed, but we have to get them into the province or we're gonna get a fine.
well, let's proceed then. A fine means withdrawal.
Like, they can change things next year, like, it's not,
Yeah, no, these are not earth-shattering questions. I mean, it's just things that I just want clarification on, just,
And she would come down, like, she comes down whenever we ask, she'll
Yeah.
come to a meeting,
yeah,
day or evening,
Sure.
and answer all your questions, and,
okay.
yeah.
Any other questions? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the financial statements?
I make that motion?
Heard the motion by Counselor Russell. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Second by Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons. Question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. So do we want to ask Beers Neal to come make a presentation on the financial statements at some point? Okay. Very good.
Yeah, I would like to talk to them, or listen to them more, yeah.
14.4 is Make-A-Wish Foundation. 3 weeks ago, I got a call from a representative of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. She was on the island scouting out locations because there was a request from a child to visit Graham and Ann as part of her wish. So her name is Danielle, and she will be on the island next Monday, on the 13th. So I wrote a letter welcoming her to the island, but I thought it would be nice if we had some sort of welcome package for her, because I'm not aware of any other Make-A-Wish recipient who's wanted to come to Graham and Ann, and that sounds really bad the way I said that, I realized as it was coming out. But I do think it's kind of cool that someone has chosen Graham and Ann as a destination, and I think it's worth making a little bit of a time over. So I'd like to suggest that we take $200 from our donations, because I think that's the maximum that we can, and maybe give them a gift certificate to spend on the island, and they can choose where they want to spend it. But I thought it would sort of top up their trip here to the island. So I think I've got some balloons and stuff like that coming from Make-A-Wish, and they'll be here, as I said, on the 13th. They'll arrive at 11:30. They're going to tour, I think, the ship when they come with Coastal. They're going to go up to the wheelhouse, all of those things, spend the day, and then leave again at 7 o'clock. So it will be a full day for them here, but if you see them out and around touring, I know everybody will make them feel welcome. So if that's okay with everybody, I think I need a motion to proceed with the $200, but that was just a suggestion. If somebody else has some other idea, I'm more than willing to hear that. But as I said, it's kind of a cool thing, I think. So Counselor Turner?
I'm cool with the suggestion, but I would also like to, if council agrees, I would like to see if we can put together like a gift basket from different businesses and stuff that we could add to it. I would gladly take that on if it's the wish of council.
Sounds good. She's coming, I believe she has 2 brothers and a mother who is also traveling with them, so. Counselor Russell?
Do we know the ages so that we get appropriate things?
I believe her wish has been delayed for a couple years, so I think she's 18 or 19. Her brothers are a little bit younger, but I'm not sure of the ages.
It just counts for
Yep. Yep.
So the basket has the appropriate things.
So would someone like to make a motion to do the $200 just before we randomly start spending money? Heard the motion by Counselor Russell, seconded by Counselor Boyd. Any questions? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you. I still think it's cool. 14.5 is Island Fest donation. Counselor Russell.
I have an application for donation on our standard form from Island Fest. The amount requested is $200. It's signed by Heather Ingalls, signature of representative, title of role, member of Arts and Culture Committee of Village of Grand Manan. It is dated June 6, 2022. And it's, I'll just read why. The funds will go towards expenses associated with NB Day weekend celebrations, Island Fest.
Questions? Counselor Turner and then Counselor Green.
What are the, I don't know if you'd call it ethics, but is it proper for us to donate to our own committee? I mean, I just don't know, so. Yeah, but I don't know if that's the way to do it.
Because we have a budgeted amount for it already.
I was told that it was appropriate, or it would never have been done.
Counselor Green, did you have a comment or you're rethinking?
The gears are slowing here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So Boyd?
Do we, yeah, because I was under the impression that Island Fest is a village production, right? So we're kind of footing the bill. So I guess I'm just wondering why we'd have to donate to what we're already paying for.
Because we didn't get any funding. We are behind the 8 ball, and we are behind, like, we got a few donations, but it's not enough to cover the expenses that we've got coming right this minute, like what we have right now to pay for. We don't have enough. So that's why.
So we have a budget for Island Fest, correct? And so now have surpassed that budget?
Arts and culture has a budget,
Right.
not specifically for Island Fest.
Okay.
What if we approach this as an increase of the budget for Arts and Council by $200 as opposed to making it a donation? My issue with donation is that are we taking $200 from that someone in the community may want?
I attended my first Arts and Culture Committee here, was that just last week? And I know there was a lot of discussion around the budget, and I'm just wondering if it would be worthwhile, I've talked to Councillor Brown about sitting down to talk about the budget, just so we can sort of get a handle on where we are. You know, we have made it, I'm not sure how to word this the most politically correct way, but I don't think that we've ever had a project that we've let not be appropriately funded if it's within reason, maybe would be a good way to say that. Would it be worthwhile to table this till the July meeting, because we would still have a full month ahead of the August meeting? Maybe have a closer look at the budget and come back with some numbers and just see where we are, and if it makes more sense to do a donation versus, or maybe just make a budget adjustment. Would that be appropriate?
Can you remind me when the July meeting is? Do you have the date?
July 4th. I
Okay,
believe.
and I just see, just on their request, that they're required by July the 4th. That's their date required, so maybe that would coincide with our next meeting.
So if it's the wishes of the group, can we table this till the July meeting?
I would agree with that. I would make a motion to table this for the July meeting.
You heard the motion by Councillor Toll. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Greenlaw. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. 14.6 is banking alternatives. Councillor Russell.
Thank you. I'm going to make a motion that we have our staff look at alternate banking and investment, do a review to check with other institutions as to are there any financial advantages to leaving Scotiabank and going with one of our major financial institutions.
You heard the motion by Councillor Russell. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons. Question? Councillor Boyd?
In maybe 2 months ago, we had discussions on Scotiabank on a couple different, I think it was our investments and our like day-to-day banking. I was under the impression at that time that staff was going to already research new options, or was that just kind of hanging in the air?
Our understanding was that we were looking at our current financial institution, the options within that, and I believe Councillor Russell's motion is to look at alternate financial institutions.
Perhaps it was just me that said we should look at alternate financial institutions at the time. So maybe that's why it was stuck in my head. But yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
I must have listened to you, Dan, because that was the conversation we had in committee. I said, didn't we already do that? And evidently, well.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. 15 is committee reports. 15.1 is the Recreation Director's report. Recreation Director Chris Rayner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're not going to change chairs?
I'm not. If I have 7 things on the agenda, I'm going to stay right here. I thought we put a cap on Councillor Russell at 5, so I'm not sure why I get 7, but. Anyway, I've talked a lot tonight, but just a quick report. We're in the first month with our new program director. Caleb's doing a fantastic job. He's got a lot of new ideas. He's also followed along with some of the programs that Tanisha had in place. I don't know how many of you follow the Raymond Recreation Facebook page, but he has a calendar out there right now for June, and it's pretty much packed every day. Some days have 2 things. One of the things I did comment with him about is it's pretty packed for events for kids and teenagers. We still need to focus efforts on the seniors as well. So anyway, this is his first month. He's just getting his feet wet, so hopefully moving forward we'll get some new programs out there for that. Baseball and softball are in full swing. The boys are out every day. Currently, right now, softball is using Grand Harbor Monday through Thursday. Castelia's going Tuesday through Friday. We've had Dutchman down to Seal Cove. They have gone around. One of the recommendations from the ball committee to our recreation committee was to look at the vegetation and the growth around the fence. So Dutchman went down with their small excavator, cleaning up around the outside of the outfield fence, as well as they took their new groomer down and has gone over the infield. The recommendation from Tom at Dutchman, who's usually does all of our fields, is that we need to look at getting a little bit of infield mix added to that. Just when there's so much grass, there's so much material that comes off with the grass, so it takes away from the field. So 2 years ago, we purchased some from a company in St. John. Tom feels that it's dirt. He thinks he can kind of replicate that, which is just a basic combination of clay and sand and some topsoil. So they're going to try to mix up a little bit of a infield concoction to try, and if it works, hopefully we can continue to get them to do that. If not, we'll just we'll look at getting some from the mainland as well. Other than that, the typical mowing, playground stuff is delayed from the manufacturer with equipment. Just a little public service announcement, I think, after some events that happened at our Seal Cove playground, to please ask everyone to use the age-appropriate equipment. And I will, the Canada Day Committee's working very well. They've had a couple of meetings and they are working hard to get that organized. They have put a request out for some volunteers to help with that. I think a lot of the events this year is going to go down towards the Anchorage. We based everything around the Greasy Pole. We're getting not very good reports from the Greasy Pole with the pole itself and the wharf and stuff like that. So anyway, hopefully that can be resolved, but if not, we'll look at doing stuff up there. But one last thing, Councillor Greenlaw sent out an email this morning to do with the accessibility mat that we bought last year, 2 years ago for the Seal Cove Sand Beach, just inquiring when that was going to be put out. That mat did not work very well at all. If it wasn't for Crystal Russell, who lives down there at the beach all summer, if it wasn't for her daily, sometimes a couple times a day, unburying the mat and sweeping it off, it wouldn't have been as successful as it was. The mat really needs a lot of attention. It almost needs to be rolled up daily. It almost needs to be rolled up depending on the tides and the southwest wind. It was a great concept, but I think in order for that mat to work properly, from what I've seen, there needs to be an airspace underneath it to allow for that ever shifting sand to be able to move and shift. The last day we went down to get it last year, we actually had to take our John Deere tractor down with the bucket, and it was literally, some spots was under 6 feet of sand. So I'm not sure how to improve that. I mean, if we could make it work, I mean, absolutely. I still have the pictures on my phone the day that, what's her name? Lindsay took, there was a gentleman come along on his mobilized scooter, and she said he hasn't been on the beach forever, and she just took him by his arm and walked him down across that mat. So, I mean, it is a very valuable tool, but if there's some way we can make this better, I'd be open for suggestions. But as it stands right now, I'm not sure we can kind of put that kind of responsibility onto Crystal, or she wants it. I know she volunteered. And really, when we bought the mat a few years ago, the understanding was that the village purchased the mat, and that group would kind of look after the daily upkeep and stuff like that. So anyway, we do have the mat. It's rolled up, and it's at the storage shed at the park, and we're more than willing to put it out if that group wants it out. But it is a lot of work to tend. So any questions?
Maybe there's somewhere else that come into use.
It would work real well, like at Big Pond, like if you had to get over a little bit of sand or a little bit of soft material that didn't move to get.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we built a playground because the sand shifted so much, it created a new parcel of land. That's what we put it on. So that sand never stops, and it just, the afternoon southwest daily down there, it just buried itself every day. Even we had it anchored. We have these big stakes on the end of it, and it's anchored every 3 or 4 feet, the whole 50-foot lengths, and that would take that and roll that up every time that tide would come with that southwest wind. But anyway, great idea. If there's ways we could make it work or improve it, absolutely.
Questions? Counselor Russell and then Counselor Layton.
Chris, is this a good time to put council on notice that the equipment, the park, recreation and park equipment is aging, it's beyond aging? And likely we gotta have some serious talks at budget time to get some new equipment.
Absolutely, Councillor Russell. We've got 2 mowers there that are at least 18 to 20 years old. They have been fantastic piece of equipment. I hope if we buy new that it lasts just as long. They built them just as tough. One of the issues that we're having is we're using our mower, our big mower, that's also kind of our utility vehicle. We're using it to drag and roll and decompact the ball fields daily. Like I just get through saying that we've got 2 ball fields that are used 4 days a week, so that's 8 times a week, and we haven't even got Steel Cove ready. So this tractor that we're relying on to mow all of our parks, all of our playgrounds, all of our municipal facilities, as well as the airport, is getting some age to it. So as Councillor Russell said, we'll need to look at the budget time, making a couple capital purchases for recreation equipment, so.
Counselor Layton, did you have?
In regards to the Rowie mat, could you put floats on the side of it, like, and let it float up and down with the tide? Just have it moored so it floats all the time. When it's on the beach, it's on the beach. Like a mooring system of some sort with just small floats along each side of it. I don't know.
I don't know. The Moby mat is basically like
It doesn't
a
float.
flexible carpet. Like there's not a lot of structure to it. It just basically gives the mobility device, whether it's a walker or a wheelchair or whatever, something stable so it doesn't sink down into the sand. But it needs to stay stretched out the 50 feet. One of the problems is it doesn't quite completely cover the whole distance we're trying to get across.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the answer to your question, it might.
But I guess I remember now that the issue was not actually the Rowie mat itself, but getting from where they park their car to the Rowie mat was almost inaccessible as well, so.
It was. We took our tractor down and tried to clean that area up the best we could to make it accessible. And we had some mats, the mats that a lot of the fishermen use in the afterkit of the boats, those 4 foot by 6 foot, the big thick rubber ones that got the interlocking. We put 2 or 3 of those in a row, which really made the difference to try to get them from where they park across that first little bit of sand. But I'm not sure how you would keep that perfectly where we need to do it. The mooring with the flotation it would certainly be something to try. It'd have to take a little bit of thought process, for sure.
Anyone else? Thank you. 15.2 is Solid Waste Committee report. Councillor Trish Toll to report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to update on what's been happening at the transfer station in the last little while. I don't know if anybody's been back and looked, but the traps are gone. They have been hauled off the, I think I talked about this last time. There's a new pile that are beginning to show up again. But this pilot project that we did hopefully will turn into something that can be continued on like any other recycling program, where they're going to come back every now and then and get the rest if it's finally approved and everything. There's been some headway made with the recycling of our rope pile. We should see some movement in that within the next month or two. It's a company from Denmark called Plastic Global that can use it. Our next big hurdle will be figuring out how to get it from here across the ocean to, but that will be worked out, not with us, that is being worked out by the company and Sonia, who is our contact through all this stuff. So hopefully that will start happening in the near future. And then our next project that we're trying to work on, I put a picture in with your package of the pile of feed bags that we have at the transfer station at the C&D site. So we're hoping that we can work with Cooks and try to figure out how we can make this a little more user-friendly for them and for us, because right now we're paying the fees for all this going through, and there probably is a load there at least once a week once it picks up again in this next season. So we're hoping, there's no there's no recycling available for those. They're very hard to recycle, very hard to find uses for, and because of the product that's in them to begin with. And so right now that's not an option. So hopefully we can get in touch with Cooks and have a meeting and figure out what we can all do to work together to help alleviate that problem. And we just found out that Greenfield has approached us about taking the Class A blasting material from the North Head Wharf Project site and using that, they say, for some of our cover that we need for our C&D site. We had a meeting with DFO today with a couple of people, and we're talking about it, and the Class A material is clean material. It's not the stuff that's the sludge. They have to dispose of that themselves. And they're seeing no problems with us being able to stockpile this back in the C&D site. There should be all kinds of room for it. We're still waiting for the environmental people to get in touch with us and say that we can accept it. But as far as their DFO is concerned, that stuff is wonderful. We can take it, we can use it for many, many things, not just the C&D site cover. We can get it all crushed, we can sort it, we can use some for that, some for something else. If other projects, we can sell it or whatever we have to do with it. So when we have our approval from Environment, then we'll try and move forward with that. So that would take care of that big pile of rock that is sitting up at North Head. So that's basically what's happening right now. So there's one thing I would like to have a motion made for, and that is to have this Class A material, if we have our final approval from Natural Resources, to have it start moving towards our C&D site. So, and that pretty much is what's going on. Any questions? I'm not sure how many I can answer, but we'll see.
Councillor Green?
Looking at this picture of all those feed bags, and they are on our land, and they're, at this point, our responsibility.
Yes.
If those feed bags have been landed in Blacks Harbor or anywhere else, Cooks would have, or whoever, would have had to manage to get them to pay to get them to Lawrence Station,
Yeah.
and pay the tip fee to do it.
Yep.
I just hope that when you're talking to those people, whoever they may be, that they understand that our goodwill has been taken advantage of a little bit here.
Yes.
The quantity of that stuff is,
The problem with that is,
Big.
sorry? Yes, that's one pile. There's another pile next to her. And the problem too with them is they're full of garbage already. Some, not all of them, but some of them have been used as garbage bags, which we can't even get into our trailer because we have no way to lift them to get them into the trailer. But we have no right to say we won't take them because we have no signage or any policies in place saying what we can accept at our transfer station and what we can't. That would go for anything. That's not just feed bags, that's in general. But we feel now that we like you said, we've done this enough and we need to work together to figuring out how to accommodate everybody within satisfaction. We don't want, I want to get along with everyone and we need to figure out what to do this. Yes, you're right.
but that's above, the quantity of that is above the norm.
The norm,
For
yes.
production facilities around here. Of
And
course,
within
that's a number of years of stuff adding there too.
No,
But,
we've been, for the most part, I think Bill has been taking most trips. Because
he?
it's just, they accept it at the landfill on the mainland, but you can't, because we can't say no.
But, correct me if I'm wrong, but they haul, one salmon company has trucks that come here with feed every day
Yes.
and leave empty.
And leave them, you're right, we've discussed that as well.
Yeah.
So that is something that will be brought up, definitely, because they go back empty.
Yes.
Yes.
That maybe they
Yeah.
can look. Yeah.
We've made it easy for them, for sure. That's fine.
Councillor Russell?
Is there any cost to the village to move this Class A stuff from North Head to our C and D site?
No, we're
Okay.
doing them a favor.
Thank you.
Counselor Turner?
It was my understanding a few years ago that Fundy Plastics in Penfield had obtained the equipment to shred rope and recycle it. Have they been spoken
I
to?
think they had tried, I don't know about a few years ago. I know that Cook's was paying that facility so much money a month to look after that stuff, but I don't think the rope was ever anything at that point that was a feasible recycling material.
Okay.
I
No,
think there was
Bill-
some, yeah, I think there
Bill
was some
told
problems,
us that
yeah.
they were getting getting the
I think he's been
equipment to
trying
do
for a few
that,
years
so-
to get that kind of equipment,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Any other questions? Counselor Toll, did you want to make a motion?
I would like to make that motion to approve receiving that Class A material once we have approval from Natural Resources.
Department of Environment.
Department of Environment.
You heard the motion by Counselor Toll. Do we have a seconder? Second by Counselor Boyd. Question?
I know we're saying that the Class A material is separate and apart and has different characteristics than the pile that nobody seems to want, or whatever. What is that? That's been
Because the
tested and
material
approved?
is rock, so the contaminants don't go into the rock. The only thing that would be on it would be some salt, which would wash off in rain, and probably most of that is gone already. It's not a permeable material, it's a solid material. It's not sludge. It's anywhere from this size and up, so eventually we would sort, crush to what we need, and have separate piles.
Any other question?
Yeah, in the future, is it going to be, would it be cheaper to buy or to crush? Like if we have the stuff it's crushing, I have an idea it's quite expensive.
I haven't looked into that,
Okay.
but from what I understand, it would be in our best interests, I think, to accept this material if we
Okay.
can.
Because right now, it's not usable as top cover in its present
No,
state.
no, but even if we don't use it for top cover, there are other uses
Okay,
for it.
okay.
We could use it as the village to repair what needs, if we have emergency repairs on roads, or something gets washed out, or we don't have to buy material for that, we would have it already.
Yeah, but it's not usable because it's too big.
Once it's sorted, it would be usable.
Yeah,
It's-
armor
yeah,
rock, yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Our approval to operate requires us to have two different levels of cover. So the first level is 300 millimeters of material like this. So we could use this material if, Bill's got the machinery. If we just had access to a screen that, over time, when he's got some time, go up there, put a few scoops through the screen, separate some of the bigger stuff from the smaller stuff, use that smaller stuff as our first layer of cover. So, and in our conversation with Greenfield did indicate, and they said it themselves, and it's the first time that it's come out, that they have agreed to truck the Class B material off island.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. 15.3 is the Transportation Committee report. Councillor Jordy Layton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, fellow councillors. I'm going to talk about the ferry for a minute. After a lengthy service interruption, we're back the ferry's back. It's working great. We're looking forward to June 20th when the additional trips from the Grand Am 5 start. Traffic's heavy now. They've been leaving traffic on quite a number of different occasions. We have a ferry partnership committee meeting coming up in a couple of weeks, and there's a few things that we're going to be discussing with them about improvements to the reservation system. I think there's some improvements that can be made there that we've learned going through this. As always, we've requested extra trips from the minister, but we've never heard back from that yet. But on the other topic of the ferry is improved conditions. We've started using the Sentinel Sentinel system, and I think, or the Voyant Alert system, I'm sorry. And I've heard all kinds of comments on how well it's helped people traveling, right? I don't think we're quite with the communications that we should be, but it's definitely way better than it's ever been before. So I think everybody's happy as a committee that that's moving forward. I think Chris told me tonight there was around 1,200 people subscribed to our Voyant. So I'd like to see maybe a little bit of more of a push to get more people signed up and make sure people know that that service is available. And I'd say that's about it for the ferries, if anybody has any questions or comments. Okay, I'm going to jump right into the road situation. Our invitation to tenders should be posted this month for the completion of 49 kilometers of our secondary highways, ditching and vegetation removal. That's hopefully this summer that project will take place. In the meantime, I think we all need to be cautious about the road safety. I think Councillor Dan had a few points about, he's our biker guy for town council, and maybe I can get him to make a few comments about that.
Yeah, sure. I'll take a swing. I don't know if CAO, he's going to go get it. It was brought to my attention by the owners of the new GM e-bike rentals, which if you haven't gone out on them yet, you should, because it's a lot of fun. But John, one of the owners, made the comment that we don't really have any share the road signs all over the island. So I talked to Jordy as head of the transportation committee, and we chatted with Chris, and Chris went and talked to DTI, and we got approval to put these signs up. So we're going to, I think we're going to start with maybe half a dozen and put them up, right on the ferry, then all the way down the island. Just kind of try to make more people aware that there are bikers, there are walkers, there are people with young families, strollers, dogs, whatever around. It's not just trucks running up and down our Route 776. So share the road, look for the signs, and pay attention.
Share the road. So there's I guess everybody is always pushing on the traffic side of it, but I want to talk about the people that are on bicycles and sharing the road with traffic. I think everybody needs to be respectful of how people choose to move around the island. And just because you're on a bicycle doesn't mean you need to get out of the way when you need to get out of the way. So, I mean, everybody has a responsibility to share the road. And there's an Ellen's Law that was brought in by the province a couple of years ago, which a lady was run over. She was in her lane. There was a traffic passing her, and she got run over. And so we need to be respectful. It's a meter. When there's a pedestrian, when there's a bicycle going down the same lane that you're traveling, you cannot just pass it. There has to be a meter's difference, or you have to wait for oncoming traffic to go by. So everybody just needs to be more careful until we get the roads up to where it's safe for everybody to play on them. Let's be careful. Thank you. Any questions? Nothing. All right. This is...
Sorry, Councillor Toll has a question.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to add to that and saying maybe we could do some education on our village page of how you're supposed to act when you're on a bicycle or walking. There are rules of the roads for pedestrians and bikers just as well as there are for cars. So if I always find it really scary when I'm in my car driving in one lane and there's a bike coming at me in the same lane. Yes. Which is not the way you're supposed to ride your bike. That is, to me, is the scariest thing, because I don't know, it just freaks me right out. So I don't know whether we could find those, maybe the RCMP could help us with getting the rules, and we could post them on our page, this lovely new page that we have, our website, so that you can get that information, and maybe, I don't know if the school could give out information, there's something that's got to, bike rodeos, something, just to teach people and to be out there. The signs, I think, are fabulous. I think this whole thing could be really good, and we can all just get along. It's not that far to North Edge. You'll get there. You're not gonna, you're not gonna miss anything by speeding by. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Thanks.
Councillor Turner?
I think another thing that people need to be aware of is that it's not just the meter, it's that you have to yield to oncoming traffic too. I was in the soft shoulder, almost in the ditch the other day, because someone met a biker and just went out around them, and I had nowhere to go. And I was in the other lane, and it's scary. Like, sometimes you have nothing, there's no room to maneuver. There's no other lane to pull into or anything like that, but, yeah. It's crazy.
Counselor Russell?
Yes, just a matter of interest. I was in the gallery in the legislature last week, watching our government at work, and they were debating a new bill or regulations concerning safe bicycling in New Brunswick. All parties were in full support of this new bill. I'm not sure what it was, but it was kind of interesting because it certainly ties in. So our government is very into this also.
Good to hear.
Counselor Layton, are you?
One more, a little bit about the airport, I guess. There's lots going on out there. Our committee along with our mayor and CIO spent an evening out at the hangar with Atlantic Charters. We toured the hangars, we went in and out, we were in and out of the airplanes, showed us what he had. I mean, they got a first class operation there. Very, very, very impressive. Their level of service can't be, Medivag can't compete with the service that they provide us here on Grand Manan. We're very lucky to have them. And in saying that, it was mentioned that this is their 40th anniversary, which is a big event in the airline industry. I mean, most companies don't last 40 years, so they've made good grounds. They have a good footprint here, and I know that the village will support them going forward. But now let's talk about the upgrade to the airport. Everybody get this email that I shared. I didn't get a committee meeting together just because I didn't really have time, but we can discuss it here. I mean, basically it's telling us that with this new predictive mapping tool that the province uses now, there's no way that we can carry on the refurbishment as we'd like to see. I think we can probably put new pavement down and that's it without walk away with that footprint, but we're not going to be able to expand it down the road. So we've talked to Andrea, and this predictive mapping program just come in. I mean, honestly, anyway, hopefully we can get grandfathered around it or get away or some way around it, but I'm not too positive about that. But I guess we need to make a motion. I think if Andrea can't pull this off and get this started, I think we should step back. I think we should take the advice of our engineers and go through with the full environmental impact study. It'll put construction off for a year, but I think we'll be in a better place next year and for years to come if we do that. So I need to know what you guys think about it, what we should do, what's your advice, recommendations. I think we could probably just go and pave it now, but I don't think that's where we want to be. I think we need to look forward for expansion, look forward to better level of service. And I'd just like anybody's input, advice. Councillor Green?
Okay. Yeah, I've read the email, and there's 4 things here. I don't think we want to scale that back or to cut corners with it. It might be a bit painful to do the full EIA and wait till next year, but we're getting late in the construction season now, and I have worries that if they're paving in November and December, we're not going to really get what we want. We'll get blacktop down, but it won't be a long-lived surface. And we'll be back in a few years doing major upgrades or repairs again. So it may sting a bit, and probably the people that use it will know more than I do about that for sure. But I think if we can live with it until next year and do it once and do it right, it would be our best option.
We have a situation where our lines were just here. We just painted the roads, And we skipped the airport this year because why are we going to waste money out there when we're going to have a repave? So we're back in the situation where we have to keep it up to Transport Canada regulations. So we're going to have the guys come back. If we don't go through this year, we're going to have to come back and have that painted. Plus the guy that fixes the cracks, he fixed them last time and he said he probably couldn't fix them much more than he did, but I mean, if we can squeeze one more year out of it, I don't know. I guess it's up to council to decide.
I'd agree with what Councillor Green said. I think we ought to, for me, I think we ought to take the time and get it done right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
sure.
Absolutely. So, anybody else? Sure.
Councillor Turner and then Councillor Russell.
I think we should talk to the users just to see if they're okay with us waiting a year, like if it's safe for them for a year,
And
I guess.
excuse me, I reached out to Peter tonight. I had quite a lengthy conversation with him, and he took me down a whole bunch of different roads. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, he thinks, I believe, he's on our page too, right? The condition of the runway is bad, and he worries about his aircraft. He worries about safety issues. But I mean, we've definitely got to bring him into the conversation. But
Councillor Russell.
If we delay a year, will the funding be available?
Chris is,
Yeah, that funding agreement doesn't expire until 2027.
I believe
Is it 5 years? I believe. Yep. So, but with the EIA, there's going to be extra costs. I mean, EIAs are expensive. So, I think we'll have to reach out to the government again to see if there's any funding available to do this. I mean, we're already looking at, the potential of an increase of 30% on asphalt price. So,
Councillor Russell.
Can the environmental impact study, can that be capitalized? Can that be rolled into the project as part of the capital cost?
it probably could be, but you're going to be taking money away from something else. We were only allocated $6.5 million for that project. And with a 30% increase in asphalt costs, it was getting to the point where there was a $900,000 contingency fund in there, which was pretty much eaten up strictly by the 30% increase in asphalt. So I don't think there's any wiggle room, so I'm afraid if we take the EIA cost out of that, we're going to be shortchanging ourselves somewhere else.
Anyone else? Councillor Layton, did you want to make a motion to proceed with the full EIA if the predictive wetland mapping issue cannot be resolved?
Exactly, yes, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
You heard the motion by Councillor Layton. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Greenlaw. I'm getting really good at throwing my voice. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. 15.4 is the Economic Development Committee report. Councillor Turner to report.
Thank you. In 2020 and 2021, a whole range of new issues developed with regard to economies, including our local one. COVID and the resulting restrictions meant that both businesses and individuals began to think differently about what they were doing and how they were doing it. Of these issues, the ones with the most immediate and significant impact for us as a community are, number one, the workforce shortage, number two, the lack of rental accommodation for both islanders and potential workers from elsewhere, and three, the closing of the local branch of Scotiabank. And those are not in order of priority. The Scotiabank one was third because it was late to the party, so to speak. Not much of a party, but it was late. As well as both provincial and, I missed a spot. I went to the wrong word here. Initially, our focus was on the availability of workers and the lack of accommodation. In January, the announcement of the closure of our local bank caused us to shift our focus to this unexpected and urgent matter. From day one, our mayor has initiated conversations with officials from Scotiabank, as well as both provincial and federal governments. As a result, she will be attending a meeting with the Director of Policy and Advisor for Atlantic Canada to the Federal Minister of Finance, Chrystia Freeland, on June 15th. This is a definite step in the right direction in what seems to be an uphill battle for the well-being of our community. If through the efforts of our community and council, the local branch of Scotiabank remains open, that would obviously be the easiest and best possible resolution. Knowing, however, that there are no assurances of government intervention or a change of heart from Scotiabank, we have explored many options that would allow for continued services here on Grand Manan. The current and continuing shift of financial institutions away from rural areas compounds the problem of attracting another entity to replace Scotiabank. We have spoken with many banks and credit unions, and the answer is the same. None are looking to expand, particularly to rural locations. As a result, we are thinking outside the box and exploring creative and innovative options that would provide a level of in-person service as well as the ability to deposit and withdraw cash. We know we cannot simply wait and hope and be unprepared should the worst happen. A feasible backup plan to mitigate the impact must be ready to be implemented when needed. Unfortunately, when one crisis arises, the others do not go away. We are therefore looking at possible ways to provide the necessary rental accommodation to support our residents and local economy. One option being explored is the tiny house. This would allow for self-contained private units to be available in a cost-effective manner. The logistics are not for the faint of heart, as this project would require land, all of the usual facilities such as water, septic, and utilities. It is an ongoing discussion which we hope will result in a positive outcome. Another option would be to work with a developer to renovate or construct rental units, assisting in whatever way we can to make the concept and process appealing to interested parties. In summary, these are some big issues, none of which have overnight solutions, but we are working hard to address them in the best way possible. Our love for our community will not allow us to do anything less. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Any questions? All right. Item number 16 is bylaws. 16.1 is bylaw number 5722, a bylaw to replace bylaw 37-02, a bylaw of the Village of Grand Manan respecting the composition of the council and the of the mayor and councillors. Third reading by Councillor Kara Greenlaw, and we'll see if she can say the name better than I can.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So 16.1, I will be reading title only, I believe for the third reading. Bylaw number 5722. Bylaw to replace bylaw 37-02, a bylaw of the Village of Grand Manan respecting the composition of the council and the remuneration of the mayor and councillors.
That was impressive, if only for that word. Any questions?
I would make a motion that we accept the third reading of bylaw number 57-22 and that it be enacted.
Heard the motion by Councillor Green. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Toll. Question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. 16.2, bylaw number 5622, bylaw to amend bylaw number 5219, the rural plan bylaw. Councillor Greenlaw, third reading.
Actually, I would like to make a motion to postpone this pending further information for our next meeting.
Heard the motion by Councillor Greenlaw. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Brown. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Item number 17 is approval to pay the following invoices from the General Operating Fund. Dutchman Contracting for the Dark Harbor Outlet, $23,132.25. I will flag that because it's one of the highest amounts that we've seen. The outlet had a lot of damage this past winter because of storms, and we will recoup, I believe, 10,000 of that from the, from Parks Canada, who are using the outlet. Deborah Stewart is first responder training for the fire department is $1,854, and FitWorks is for the fitness center equipment, $11,746.10. And the majority of that was either raised through donations or through a grant with the Fundy Community Foundation. Our actual cost is probably a couple $1,000, give or take. Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to pay those invoices.
I make that motion.
Heard the motion by Counselor Russell. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Boyd. Question.
Has the outlet been done already? No? Take a joy of them?
It has. And Dutchman was really worried about the shape of the outlet and knowing what it was gonna cost to do it, so he actually called one day and I went for a field trip to the outlet with him, and he explained everything that they normally do and showed me, and it had completely worn away the side next to where the cliff is. Like there's usually a road that goes by that little lighthouse tower that's there, and that was completely gone. So they had to rebuild that first, which basically, that took the amount of money that we normally put in the outlet just to rebuild that before they even started doing the outlet work, so.
Question?
The FitWorks, is the equipment installed and in use?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All those in all those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. So next is closed session. We have two items. One is legal for a property issue, and 18.2 is the Dark Harbor quotations. What?
Do we have another one now? Oh, yeah, we've got it.
So I'm already confused. Somebody like to make a motion to go into closed session? They're very excited on the side of the table, so it's moved by moved by Counselor Boyd, seconded by Counselor Russell. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried.